Imagine, a young man drops out of college. He has no degree, no money, no clear path. He sleeps on friends' floors, survives on cheap meals, and returns Coke bottles for spare change. To the outside world, he looks like another failure in the making. But this same young man would go on to build one of the most valuable companies in history, change the way we listen to music, animate films, communicate with each other, and even hold the devices we carry in our pockets today. That man was Steve Jobs, the visionary, the rebel, the dropout who refused to follow the rules. And this is the story of how he revolutionized the world. Steve Jobs was born in San Francisco in 1955 to a young, unmarried couple. His biological mother, an American graduate student, and his biological father, a Syrian immigrant, felt they couldn't raise him. So Steve was put up for adoption. A working-class couple, Paul and Clara Jobs, adopted him. Paul was a machinist and mechanic, while Clara was an accountant. They weren't wealthy, but they poured love and support into Steve's life. Steve grew up in Mountain View, California, a place that would later be called Silicon Valley. As a boy, he was curious, mischievous, and endlessly fascinated by electronics. His father taught him how to take apart and rebuild machines, sparking an early love for craftsmanship. But Steve wasn't a perfect student. He was restless, rebellious, and often bored in school. He wanted to explore, to create, to break free from limits. After high school, Jobs enrolled at Reed College in Oregon. It was expensive, and his adoptive parents were spending their entire savings to send him there. But within months, Steve realized it wasn't working. He didn't see the value in sitting through classes that didn't interest him, so he made a bold decision. He dropped out. But instead of leaving campus, he stayed around, sneaking into classes that fascinated him. One of them was a calligraphy course. At the time, it seemed useless. But years later, that knowledge inspired the beautiful fonts and design that set Apple computers apart. Jobs later said, "You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward." After leaving Reed, Jobs wandered. He experimented with spirituality, traveled to India, and lived simply. Back in California, he took odd jobs, including at Atari, where he met Steve Wozniak, a brilliant engineer with a passion for electronics. Together, they shared a vision to build personal computers that ordinary people could use. At the time, computers were giant, complicated machines, reserved for businesses or scientists. Jobs and Wozniak believed they could put one in every home. They started building computers in Jobs' parents' garage. Jobs sold his Volkswagen van, Wozniak sold his calculator, and with that tiny seed money, Apple was born. In 1976, Apple Computer was founded. Their first product, the Apple I, was modest, but it was the Apple II that changed everything. It became one of the first mass-produced personal computers in history. By the age of 25, Steve Jobs was a millionaire. By 30, he was leading a company that was going public and competing with giants like IBM. But success didn't come without arrogance. Jobs was brilliant, but he was also demanding, a perfectionist, and often difficult to work with. His vision pushed people beyond their limits, but it also created enemies. In 1984, Apple launched the Macintosh. It was revolutionary, beautifully designed, easy to use, and years ahead of its time. But sales disappointed, and the company's board began to lose faith in Jobs' leadership. By 1985, tensions peaked. Steve Jobs, the man who co-founded Apple in his garage, was fired from his own company. It was humiliating. The world saw him as a failure. The golden boy of Silicon Valley had been thrown out. But Jobs later admitted, "Getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me." The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. Instead of giving up, Jobs started again. He founded a new company called Next, creating powerful computers for businesses and education. While Next never became a massive success, its technology laid the foundation for Apple's future. At the same time, Jobs bought a small, struggling animation studio from George Lucas. That studio? Pixar. Under Jobs' leadership, Pixar created Toy Story, the first fully computer-animated feature film. It became a worldwide hit, proving Jobs wasn't finished with innovation. Meanwhile, Apple struggled without him. In the 1990s, the company was on the brink of collapse. In desperation, Apple acquired Next, and with it, Steve Jobs returned. When Jobs came back in 1997, Apple was nearly bankrupt. But within a few years, he turned it into the most valuable tech company in the world. How? By revolutionizing not just computers, but entire industries. The iMac, 1998, brought color, design and personality to computers. The iPod, 2001, put 1,000 songs in your pocket and changed how we listen to music. The iTunes Store transformed the music industry. The iPhone, 2007, redefined communication, combining phone, music, and internet in one device. The App Store created a new digital economy. The iPad, 2010, reshaped media and publishing. Each product wasn't just about technology. It was about simplicity, elegance, and creating experiences people didn't even know they needed. Jobs was obsessive about design and detail. He believed products should not only work well but also look and feel beautiful. He often pushed his teams to the brink, demanding perfection. Many found him difficult, but they also admitted he inspired them to do the best work of their lives. Jobs believed in thinking differently. His famous quote captures it. "Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. But the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things." Despite his success, Jobs faced personal battles. In 2003, he was diagnosed with a rare form of pancreatic cancer. For years, he fought the disease while still leading Apple to new heights. In 2011, he stepped down as CEO, passing the torch to Tim Cook. Shortly after, Steve Jobs passed away at just 56 years old, but his legacy lives on. Apple became the first company to reach $1 trillion valuation. Pixar continues to make groundbreaking films. The iPhone transformed communication, business, and even culture itself. Steve Jobs didn't just build products. He built a vision of the future. Steve Jobs' story is full of lessons we can all apply. Follow your curiosity. Dropping into calligraphy class seemed random, but it later shaped Apple's design. Failure isn't final. Being fired from Apple led him to Pixar and Next, which fueled his greatest comeback. Think differently. Jobs never asked, "What are people doing now?" He asked, "What will they want tomorrow?" Persistence beats obstacles. Whether broke in college or battling illness, he kept moving forward. Leave a legacy. Jobs reminded us, life is short. What you build should make an impact long after you're gone. Steve Jobs' life is proof that you don't need a degree, wealth, or perfect circumstances to change the world. What you need is vision, persistence, and the courage to think differently. So ask yourself, what's the idea burning inside you right now? The one you've been too scared to chase? Remember, Jobs started in a garage. He was broken, rejected, and even fired. Yet he built a legacy that touched billions. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What dream are you ready to pursue? And if this story inspired you, hit that subscribe button so you never miss more motivational journeys like this. Do not overlook. Your circumstances don't define you. Your vision does. And if you dare to act, you too can change the world.